Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk was on matchmaking, and while I don't normally do a dedicated video for each individual Titan Talk, I felt like this one was extremely important as matchmaking is one of the biggest issues facing Smite 2 right now, and a lot was talked about on the show. So here's your quick rundown of everything you need to know in terms of the current matchmaking implementation and the team's plans for the future in regards to it. So first up, last Friday the 18th, SR matchmaking was actually added to ranked, and according to this graph shared by Innocent Rabbit, the results have made matches much more closely aligned with less difference in SR than previously when SR had no effect on matchmaking. The most common match has gone from around 3000 SR difference to around 17 to 1800 difference, which is still a lot but definitely an improvement. They also mentioned that the system has a hard limit at 3000 SR difference now, where it never will make a match with more than that unless parties are involved, which is why you see the small tail on the graph at over 3000 difference. These are all matches with parties in them. For parties, the entire party's SR is taken as the highest player in that party, not as an average like it is in Smite 1. So if you're at 600 SR and queuing with someone at 4000, you will be put in a 4000 game, not somewhere in between, which is where some of the most extreme SR differences will happen that you might see posted on Twitter and stuff. To be clear, there was matchmaking in place before this. It just used your hidden background MMR and not your visible SR, which had clear differences between the two in a lot of cases. They are aware of some issues caused by this new matchmaking update that can leave people in extremely long or even infinite queues, but fixes should be rolling out for that either today or very soon. There's also a system where any player above 5000 SR, which is demigod rank, will essentially be treated as being the same SR for matchmaking purposes and will be put together with anyone at 5000 and above as if they had the same SR. This is supposed to hasten queues at the ultra high ranks and encourage competition at the highest level, with really good players playing against other really good players even if they might be a little better than you. They're also working on a system that will incorporate player account level into casual matchmaking. They did say that casual MMR does exist and that's what the system is using at the moment, so the people that are saying there's literally no matchmaking in casual, that's not true, at least according to the team. But they are now going to look at account level in addition to that, so that should help with avoiding completely new players being put in matches with experienced Smite 1 veterans that already have hundreds of hours in Smite 2. After there's a decent system in place that's working for both ranked and casuals, they want to start implementing their MOBA specific matchmaking that will incorporate things like role specific MMR, but they didn't have a timeline on when that sort of stuff will be coming. They're also looking at ways to flag Smurf accounts and separate them from actual new players much more quickly than just waiting for their MMR to rise, so that should be good as well. Especially as the game approaches free to play, people don't really want to spend $30 just to make a Smurf, but when the game goes free there will be a lot more of that, so that's good to see. Elite Queue is also going to be disabled very soon after this video goes out, or it might already be. The changes they pushed out on Friday last week are supposed to achieve a similar goal at the high end of ranks without needing a separate queue, but they do have plans to bring Elite Queue back with more features that make a genuinely unique experience compared to normal ranked. The role preference system is working great and they said they're pretty happy with the numbers right now. Something they specifically mentioned was 95% of your matches are your top 3 roles, with something like 60% being your top role and 25 to 30% being your second role, which is definitely an improvement from Smite 1. And I can personally attest to this as it's very uncommon for me to get filled into duo lane my bottom 2 roles. They mentioned role blacklisting as something that they can't really do at the moment because matchmaking makes a game before it assigns roles, so you could end up with situations where an entire team has the same blacklisted role, which could break things. But they do have plans to introduce role-based MMR, as I mentioned earlier, at which point the system would assign roles before making the match. However, they said that your bottom role is essentially close to blacklisted as it is, with something like a 0.5% chance or 1 in 200 games being your bottom role, so there might not even really be a need for blacklisting roles anyway. Your 5th role is effectively blacklisted. They also mentioned they are open to the idea of giving fill more leeway, so you could, for example, pick a top role but then fill everything else. So it tries to give you your top role, and if it can, it fills you, rather than only being able to fill every role as it is right now. They also said that while the system is working great, they are aware of some issues where players can get stuck in a loop of only getting their second preference role but never their first, which they're looking into, and potentially will give like a small amount of priority if you get role 2, so if that happens several times in a row, you get enough priority to guarantee your role 1. And the final thing they talked about in relation to matchmaking on the Titan Talk was allowing individual performance to influence SR gain and loss. Max went quite in depth on this, but it essentially boils down to the system needing to be incredibly complex, because if players can figure out what the system wants from them in order to get a good performance rating, that could be abused. Like, for example, if you're losing a match heavily, the best way to avoid SR loss might just be to power farm to level 20, avoid every fight, and then come in to snag 1 or 2 kills right at the end of the match to pad your KDA. But of course, we don't want people instantly playing like this as soon as they start losing because it would destroy the match quality. Max did say that it's something they want to do, but due to the complexity, if it were ever implemented, it would have to be done very carefully to avoid these kind of situations. They mentioned potentially introducing a letter grade system similar to what League of Legends has, but with no impact on SR gain or loss, to essentially trial run the system and get feedback on if the grading is accurate or not before moving forward. But that's basically everything matchmaking related that was discussed on today's Titan Talk. As I said, I don't usually do dedicated videos on each one of these, but matchmaking is a big issue for Smite 2 right now, and I felt like covering it in a dedicated video was the best way to go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick summary, and I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.